You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. How can a single action replace decades of coping strategies? Join me for part 2 of the Hypnotica series today. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer. What if everything we've been told about holistic health, healing, and well-being is only part of the story? Because thriving in today's world looks different than it used to. Here, we challenge the narratives, rethink what it means to become human, and explore how that shapes the way we lead, live, and step into our full potential. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to our special Hypnotica series. In the second part of the series, we dive into how the subconscious mind creates safety protocols based on past experiences and the empowering reality that we can change patterns we have created. We explore neuroplasticity, symbolic restructuring, and why what we practice daily reshapes our brains. Craig Meriwether is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist, neuro-linguistic programming specialist, and founder of Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, helping people eliminate the negative emotions and limiting beliefs that may be keeping them from reaching their full potential. For over 12 years, Craig has been helping people heal from early childhood trauma, helping cancer patients with pain control, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, students with test anxiety, children with nightmares, entrepreneurs with confidence, athletes with peak performance, and anyone who may be dealing with overwhelm, fear, and anxiety. Here's the second part of this fascinating series, The Healing Power of Hypnotherapy with Craig Meriwether. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for tuning in today for the second part of our special series called Hypnotica, which is all about hypnotherapy and past life regression and all the amazing things that are involved. Now, in the last part, we talked about the myths of hypnosis, and today we are diving into the healing power of hypnotherapy. And of course, I'm here with my guest, Craig Meriwether, who will be leading this exploration and sharing a lot of really interesting things with you. So stay tuned, and I'm going to hand this over to Craig, and we'll get right into it. Welcome, Craig.
Oh, Petra, thank you so much for doing this series. I really appreciate being able to get this information out there because it's such an extraordinary tool that we all have. So I appreciate you putting this all together because I know it's a lot of work. Thank you for that. And I know last time I took a deep breath in and talked for about 44 and a half minutes or something because it's such an amazing technique that you can tap into. And hypnotherapy in and of itself is like an umbrella of various techniques, but the technique of tapping into your own subconscious mind. And I might repeat myself a couple of times here and there just to tie it all into the first part. And then in the next two parts, we're going to go more into the deeper spiritual side of this. But in this one, just in terms of current life issues that somebody may be struggling with, the issue comes to blocks potentially within the subconscious mind, maybe blocks that were formed when somebody was a young child because they grew up in a home that wasn't safe or got bullied or any number of things that may be within that unconscious part of mind, behind that veil for various reasons. Maybe just memory gets stacked and mind gets overloaded with facts and figures in school and life. But as I probably mentioned last time, the subconscious mind has this filing cabinet, so to speak, of files of all the hurt and pain we've been through. And it's holding on to this hurt and pain, not to make your life miserable. Your subconscious mind is for you. It may not seem like that sometimes, but your subconscious mind is for you. It's for your survival. It's for your safety. It's for your protection, which doesn't necessarily mean your happiness and your success. It wants you safe. It wants you protected, and will use your experiences from the past to create this kind of algorithm of safety protocols. So if anything looks like that old event, you'll get the warning signals. And somebody pulls a fire alarm in a building, the sirens go off, the lights go off, warning everybody if there's danger. Well, we also have a warning system, but it's the feeling state. So the feeling state of anxiety, feeling state of anger and overwhelm and fear is a warning through your body from the change in brain chemistry, which can only happen in this way through thoughts, conscious or unconscious, of your mind. So your mind, as it's pulling in all the information of your day, like hear, taste, touch, and smell, pulling all the information, if anything registers one of those files as maybe dangerous, even just slightly, then you'll get the warning signals. Now, a great example of this may be maybe somebody, when they were 12 years old, they were in a head-on collision with a red pickup truck. Very traumatic, very awful. Now they don't really kind of remember it. Maybe they're in their 50s or 60 years old. They don't really remember it. They just heard stories of all this terrible car accident that you were in when you were a kid, and a bunch of people got hurt. But now let's say you're driving down the road, you're driving across town to go visit friends, go visit family. Great, beautiful day. The windows are down, the music's on, it's a clear traffic. Couldn't have been a better day to drive across town. But out of your peripheral vision in a parking lot, there's a red pickup truck. In and of itself, it's not dangerous, it's not coming straight at you, but it's enough to maybe trigger a little warning signal. So by the time you get to your destination, even though it's a great, beautiful day, traffic was amazing, you got every green light there was, you're like gripping the steering wheel, really tight, you're really stressed, really anxious. The subconscious mind picked up a potential danger, a red pickup truck, which was associated back when you were a kid as being super dangerous. Now it's warning you, okay, there's a little bit of a problem here because there's a red pickup truck. It's parked. It's not coming at you, but there it is. So let's keep our guard up because there may be danger somewhere else. And so we may be experiencing that again and again and again, depending on what's going on at work, what's going on with family, what's going on in the world as we listen to the news. So we're getting these warning signals. And the other aspect I probably mentioned the last time was that what you practice, you get better at. So, of course, that's great if you want to learn how to play the piano or the violin or the guitar, learn dance, learn martial arts, learn to walk as a child. But if you're practicing anxiety, especially around a specific issue in life, if you're practicing fear, you're practicing being angry and resentful, you're literally just wiring that into your brain. You're just going to get really good at it. And so what hypnotherapy helps is the releasing and resolving of those issues. Because in and of itself, you're the one who put it in there. It's not to say it was your fault. Certainly a 12-year-old sitting in the back seat of a car, it's not their fault. They got into a head-on collision with a car. But in terms of placing those files of now all red pickup trucks are dangerous, they put that in there, yeah, unconsciously through a traumatic event that hurt people. But they're the ones who put it in there, which becomes very empowering because they're the ones who can take it out. And that's the power of using your subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind knows what the problem is. But even like with physical issues, like somebody gets a cut on their finger, it knows what finger, it knows what, someone gets a cut on the index finger of their left hand, it doesn't send all the white blood cells to the pinky finger of the right hand. You ever had that situation where somebody like, hey, well, how'd you get that scrape on your arm? You're like, what scrape? And you're looking at it. The subconscious mind knew there was a problem before the conscious mind was even aware of it. It knows what the problem is. Somebody's up skiing somewhere, snowboarding, breaks their leg. Subconscious mind knows where the problem is. It doesn't send all the fusion cells or whatever happens with a broken leg. It doesn't send all that healing energy, all the white blood cells to the arm if the leg is broken. It knows what the problem is, and it knows what to do about it. Even with emotional issues, it's my professional opinion that the subconscious mind knows what to do about it. It just may be holding on to it because it got programming that it was safer for the person to hold on to it than let it go at that time. What you practice, you get better at. So the longer you hold on to it, the more maybe a tighter grip. But then as people become aware, because I work a lot with people in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s, it just gets heavy. It gets exhausting. Great example of this is I was doing some classes for the cancer support community here in America, specifically the state of Arizona. But they're online classes because I do most of my work online, as many talk therapists and life coaching and relationship counselors and even doctors are doing online appointments now. research shows that they work as well as in-person. In fact, there's some research that show online sessions work better than in-person, and people feel safe and comfortable in their homes. They don't have to drive across town to get to their appointment on time. But I'm doing these series of classes, and it's like pain control and healing acceleration and immune system boosting. So I'm doing this series of classes every few months or so. And there was an older woman in the class. I'm guessing she was about 70 years old. And at the third class, and we're just doing group classes. So it's a generalized kind of meeting where we're doing a process. I'm talking a little bit about it. And she'd been to 3 of the classes the third class. So she'd been 2 to the classes. On the third class, she was early to the Zoom class, and we're just chit-chatting, waiting for the others to show up and start class. And she asked if hypnotherapy can help with procrastination. I said, yeah, procrastination is a way to prevent yourself from moving forward because subconscious mind thinks it may be dangerous. True or not true, it thinks that may be some danger in moving forward and getting that report done, getting the homework done at school, getting to that appointment on time, whatever it may be. And so it drags you, pulls you back from moving forward in that way. So yeah, since the issue is within the subconscious mind somewhere, you're allowed to find that file and whatever is appropriate, resolve it, heal it, get rid of the file, whatever needs to happen. And so I say, yeah, procrastination works well. And it just so happens to have an appointment right at the same time the next day that was available. So we set it up for 24 hours later. We show up for the Zoom session. The very next day, she says, I know I told you I wanted to work on procrastination, but what I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life. I was a 70-year-old woman who thinks she doesn't matter, thinks she's worthless, has no worth in the world and nothing to give. And so I said, okay, then that's what we work on. We work on your intention. I don't decide for you. And that's what's important to understand about this work. I'm not here to analyze anybody or diagnose anybody, certainly not going to prescribe and tell you what you need to do. You know what you need to do. And that's the extraordinariness of this work and why it can work so quickly, because you know what the problem is, you know what the answer is. And so her subconscious mind within 24 hours said we could work on a problem like procrastination, or we can work on the problem, which is why I don't matter in life. And so in this session, I thought maybe going back to the first time she ever felt being unworthy would be a great way to seek this resolution through her subconscious mind. And so we did a regression to cause, meaning going back to the original event. And we do this in a safe and gentle way. It's not you're reliving it. It's not you're time traveling or anything like that. It's just accessing information, not, again, specifically a memory per se, and having to relive it, but just accessing the information. So we go back, do a regression, and she says, I'm standing up in my crib and my father's screaming at me because I won't stop crying. I don't know, it's standing up in your crib, it's like 12 months old, 14 months old, something like that. This is a 1-year-old child. And she's been holding on to this for some 70 years because back then, and if she was around 70 years old, this was, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. If she was 1 year old, that's maybe the early 1960s, maybe the late 1950s, depending on how old she was. And maybe dads weren't exactly trained on how to take care of babies. They didn't know what to do. And maybe dad wasn't a nice person. Or maybe he's just having a bad day or a bad week or bad life. Maybe work's been rough and mom's out of the house visiting her mom or something. I don't know. Who knows what the situation was. But he was so frustrated in that moment that the baby won't stop crying. He doesn't know what to do. And so he decides, well, the only thing I can think I do is I know I can scream louder than the baby and tell the baby to shut up. And maybe I'll get some peace and quiet finally in my day. And so screams louder than the baby. And in that moment, that child needs to justify why this is happening. Here's this person that's supposed to love her and protect her and keep her safe and protected. And they are not. And so to justify that child came up, I guess I just don't matter if this is the way this person is going to treat me in this instant. And she held on to that for some 70 years until one day she decided it was time to let it go. And that's often what we work with in terms of this healing. What are you feeling? Well, I feel like I don't matter in life, or I feel angry all the time, or I feel afraid when I do this, that, or the other thing, or I'm just anxious a lot. It seems like everything makes me anxious. My mother said I was born anxious. Or you have a lot of people who are struggling because of this feeling state that may be just the volume knob may be all the way up on 10. because they've been practicing it for potentially decades. Subconscious mind knows what the problem is. And again, that volume knob may be stuck on 10 because that person has been practicing it for decades. And again, I worked with another person. She was in her 70s, I'm going to guess. And all she told me was anxiety. That's the only word she told me. And I have people fill out an intake form, get more clarity about what they want. I'm happy to talk with people over the phone or Zoom call or something to discuss using hypnotherapy, do free consultations just to talk about if this is a good match and the right techniques or right therapy to use for what the person is looking for. And we had talked, and she just said, I'm just anxious and I feel anxious, and sent her the intake form thinking I'm going to get more information about it. Some people write 8 very detailed paragraphs of what they want to work on. She just wrote one word, anxiety. I'm like, all right, that's what we work on. That's the focus. Here's your bullseye. And so we work on the feeling state of anxiety. And one of the processes of hypnotherapy that can be used, again, an umbrella term, but one of the techniques is noticing in your body where you hold on to it. So it becomes a very more somatic kind of healing technique. And noticing where it is. And people can do this on their own if they like. This isn't a big secret. This isn't proprietary information. You've probably hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube about these kind of techniques. Don't do it right now, especially if you're driving or you're concentrating or something, but maybe later when you're in a safe place. But if you're feeling, let's say somebody's experiencing some anger or fear or anxiety or something, notice where you feel it in the body. Your body holding on. There's that famous book, The Body Keeps the Score. Where in your body are you feeling this? Some people in their gut, some people maybe in their chest or heart or their throat or neck or their head. I've had somebody in their fists. It can be somewhere in the body. And then let's start operating different parts of the brain. What does it look like? Does it take on a shape or a form, a square, a circle? What color is it? I've had red spiky balls. I had black ping pong balls. I've had gray mist or cloud or nothing. It's just a sensation, or it's fine. But what do you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell? About this feeling state, because we want to start operating these parts of the body or the brain, because it shows you it's not you. It's within you. You're holding on to it, but it's something that you can take out. And so if it's black ping pong balls or a spiky red ball or just a gray mist or just a feeling state that's scratchy or heavy or something, pull it out. Literally take your hands. If it's in your throat, pull it out of your head. And people pull for 5-10 minutes, pulling their stuff like this and keep going. And my job in this part of the healing is to encourage and keep going, and whatever's there, the images, the memories, the feelings, the sensations, pull it all out. So it's not touching you anymore. Yes, this is a metaphoric healing, a symbolic healing. That's the language of the subconscious mind. Freud said that. Carl Jung said that. Milton Erickson, Laura Pearl said that. The language of the subconscious mind is symbolism, metaphor, imagination, storytelling. So we use symbolism and metaphor and imagination to create this healing, because the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. That example I gave in the first part is the nightmare of the cheeseburger chasing down the street throwing coconuts at your head. It's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. And it's a dream, but your mind thinks it's real. That's why you turn on the stress response. Maybe you wake up with a scream, you're sweating, your heart is racing. So through thought alone, you can change your physiology. So let's do that on purpose, but for healing. And so pull it out, push it away from you, make sure it's not touching you. And I did it with this person, her anxiety, and I asked her before we started, just to get some clarity of what's going on. How long have you been dealing with this anxiety? It's been 6 months, it's been 6 years. And she said, since I was 19, she's 73, 74 years old. She said, since I was 19. Okay. No more information coming from her. So I'm like, fine, that's what we work on. And it was in her head. It was like a kind of a red, cloudy thing in her head. And she pulled for 48 minutes. She was doing this, pulling it all out, just pulled all this anxiety and stress and memories and images pulled. And then after 48 minutes, because I timed it afterwards, like after a while, I was like, oh, this is going on a long time. 48 minutes, she opened up her eyes. I didn't pull her out of trance. I didn't pull her out of the state of hypnosis or this altered state of healing consciousness. She just opened up her eyes and that's done. Okay. And so I said, let's close eyes and we'll do the kind of part two, because you take something else, you want to fill it back in with whatever it is you want. That's part of the intake form. You want joy, you want happiness, you want confidence, you want strength and power. We'll fill you up with that. And we did one more session, and she had been abused as a child. And so we went back and did some healing work around being 8 years old, never saw her again. 2 sessions. And she released all that stuff. I didn't help her with that in terms of me doing it for her. She did it herself. This is why this is so powerful. Just like I'm not healing anybody's scrape on their arm or their broken leg or anything. Yeah, you're going to get a cast, you're going to get an x-ray on the broken bone, but you are going to heal that. And she healed this. And I reach out to people for months after. Are you doing okay? You doing all right? I want to make sure people are good. And if there's any more work to be done, remind them that they have the power to do it. That first person I told you about who was standing up in their crib crying, never saw her again. She did 3 group sessions talking about pain control and healing acceleration, doing some processes around that and boosting the immune system, that kind of stuff. Did 1 solo session specifically on the issue, and fine. She did it. She did the work. Because at 70 years old, they were just exhausted by it. And that's what I generally work with, people who have finally gotten to the end of being able to carry the heaviness of it. It's exhausting. Occasionally, I work with somebody in their 20s or their teens. They have the insight to understand that they can create change and recreate the programming that they installed. Yes, maybe through bullies, maybe through an unsafe home or whatever the situation may have been. They're the ones who can create healing. And oftentimes I will work with somebody younger, but well, I say oftentimes, but sometimes I'll work with somebody in their 20s or so. But mostly it's people 50s, 60s, because they get to a point where they just got to search for the reason why. Maybe they've done the talk therapy. And that's part of the frustrating thing about this work is we're on the bottom of the list, hypnotherapy. And you run into people who are ready for this work who's, I've done 3 years of talk therapy. Or that's not to disparage talk therapy. I think it's very useful, very helpful to have that feedback like that and have that kind of coaching. I think that's extraordinarily helpful, it's very healing. But a little bit of the issue is that you're using your conscious, logical mind to look into, to try to analyze the subconscious mind that's hidden within the unconscious for a problem that maybe was set up by a child and that you don't remember anymore. And so how do you logically analyze a situation you really don't know about? And so that's why this can also be a great tool, like to add on to it. But oftentimes it's just, I'm running out of hope. I heard a podcast. I read an article. I saw a YouTube video or something. And I'm ready to try hypnotherapy. But understanding that the emotional pain, the anxiety, the trauma that person is holding on to, they can let it go. You don't have, it's like somebody holding on to a bowling ball or a lead weight or something. Yeah, I see you're holding on to that. Let it go. It literally can be that easy. Doesn't always be that easy, but I think in and of itself, healing happens in an instant, just like that fear or that anxiety, that trauma can be installed within an instant. Why wouldn't you be able to release it instant? Now there may be some steps to getting to the point of being ready to release it. And maybe it takes some analytical talking it through to finally get to the point of, okay, now I'm ready to release it. But that's what you're allowed to do. And it's extraordinarily powerful way of, I don't ever really call it reprogramming. I don't like the word. It has a mind control kind of thing to it. But that's what you're doing. You're reprogramming your mind. And if you could look at it like computer code, and part of the computer code that was set up, maybe when the person was a child or a teenager, or maybe in their 20s or something, was I need to armor myself in this way and set up this warning signal of fear, anger, and anxiety when something like this happens, even slightly, in order to not experience that again. And that may have all happened unconsciously, but they're the ones who program themselves that way. And just like somebody writing computer code for an accounting software program for their business, and they put in there 2 + 2 = 5. That's not exactly right. And it messes up the equations. And after a while, their business, after months and months of this is ridiculous, and they slam their fist on their keyboard out of frustration, and they talk to their friends about how unfair it is that 2 + 2 keeps equaling 5, and they take a Sharpie and they write 2 + 2 = 4 on their computer screen. It's not until they go into that code, oh, there, look at that, 2 + 2 = 5. I wonder why that happened. Maybe you need to know, maybe you don't need to know. Just amend it, edit it, revise it, whatever you need to do. Just get rid of it, and then put in there 2 + 2 = 4, press save. Now your equation's equal. I don't want to say that it's that easy, but sometimes it's that easy. You are an extraordinary human being. Why wouldn't you be able to create extraordinary healing through the process of your subconscious mind, again, which knows what the problem is and knows what to do about it? And that's, again, me going on for a long time. But it's a pretty extraordinary way of taking control back. And I talked a bit about that in the first part of this series. This isn't taking away control. This isn't being up on stage and who all volunteered to get up there to be part of the show. This isn't mind control. This isn't brainwashing in and of itself like you see in the movies and things. This is you creating healing because you want to. I can't make anybody go into hypnosis. Just I can't make anybody meditate. I can't make someone just sit in a chair and say, meditate now. Bring your attention back to this breath. Weird guy. I don't want to do that. I can't make anybody meditate, just like I can't make anybody go into hypnosis. They have to want to. And all the things in the movies, of course, that's the movies, TV shows, but even on the YouTube videos or the shows, it's they want to do that. That's why they volunteered to get up on stage, assuming it's not a plant or a setup, or they practiced it for a week before they did a show in a theater. So this is a pretty extraordinary healing. And again, if anybody has specific questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with people, email, get on a Zoom call or something. But that's pretty wild what your subconscious mind is able to do to create healing.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing all of this, Craig. And I have a few questions that I'm wondering if our listeners are having some of the same thoughts that I'm having. You mentioned that when you were working with some of your clients, you tried to take them back to that first time the event happened or the first time they can remember feeling a certain way that they're struggling with. A lot of people that I speak to, they have no idea why certain things are happening. So maybe they repeat certain relationship patterns that aren't working for them, or financial patterns that aren't working for them. Or, as you said, these automatic reactions with a red truck, maybe things trigger them. They have no idea why. Is there a way to work with hypnotherapy when we don't remember specifically what's going on, but we can see the result of whatever is happening in our daily life? Can you work with that to still resolve some of these limiting beliefs or programs that are stuck in there, even though we might not consciously know what brought that on or where that even came from?
Yeah. And it's a great question. And yes, even that the 70-year-old woman I worked with who went all the way back to standing up in her crib crying, she didn't remember that. That happened 70 some years ago, 69, 70 years ago. She didn't remember any of that. Yeah, but she did because it's in the subconscious. When we were saying the last part one, subconscious mind is making up 95% of mind. Conscious mind only makes up 5% of mind. And so we're using this 5% of mind to try, I don't know why I feel this anxiety all the time. And your subconscious mind does, because to create that feeling state of anxiety or anger or fear or whatever, you have to change the brain chemistry. And change brain chemistry in the way you can only do that with a thought, conscious or unconscious. And so that's why following the feeling state back will take you to the thought that's creating it, even if it's an unconscious thought. And that's the power of this, because as we quiet down that conscious level of mind, just relaxing, breathing. Again, I can't make you go into a relaxed state of mind. I can't make you meditate. But if you want to, and you want to create healing, which is what I'm assuming you made the appointment for, is you're going to move into a relaxed state, and I'm going to guide you in a safe and gentle way to follow that feeling. Maybe all you need to do is release it. Again, it's like you can try to figure out why you're carrying a heavy lead weight. That may be important to know, or maybe just drop the weight and move on. It depends on what you need to do. And your intuition will tell you, because your intuition is your subconscious mind talking to you. And because somebody has a conscious maybe, but unconscious thought of danger brain chemistry will change. It's not an easy or efficient way to run the body to move into the stress response and create that anxiety or that fear, the anger, the resentment, the overwhelm, whatever it may be. It's not an efficient or easy way to run the body. It takes a lot of energy, but the brain will create it. So it changes the body. So all this energy and blood supply is moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight, big muscles of your legs to escape. Your powering digestive system turning down, the power immune system. It'll do it, and it knows why it's doing it. And so again, it's following that feeling state back. And so most of the time people get to hypnotherapy because they've done the talk therapy, they've talked about it, and it still is unresolved. And so, yes, even if you don't remember, again, it may be unnecessary for you to remember. And we're not going to look for memories. As some people say, I just get this feeling that something happened when I was a kid, just like murmurings from family members and something about one of my family members. And I think something happened and I want to go find it. It's like, no, not working with that person. So I don't go finding awful memories, because if there isn't one, your mind will create one because you told it to find you a awful memory. You don't have any awful memories from childhood, so we'll create one. And that's where a lot of that false memory syndrome came from, especially in the 1980s, 1990s, until they realized by asking leading questions, especially to children, they'll tell you what you're asking them to give them. And we don't look for memories. Now, there may be one associated with a feeling state. And again, it may have been manipulated over 70 years, may not exactly be true because the other person in the room may have an entirely different story on how that went down. They may not be right either. We manipulate memory every time we think about it. In fact, there's one memory expert that says the only way to keep a memory pure about an event is never to think about it. So we're adding on to it every time, which can intensify the feeling state. Because if life just isn't going great, and every time you think, yeah, I remember this started back when I was a kid, this feeling, and it just nothing works out and life isn't fair. I remember when I was 8 and life wasn't fair. And if you keep adding on to that past memory with current life feelings and issues and of events and circumstances, situations, it can warp it and manipulate it. Now, it doesn't mean it's not quote unquote true for you. And that's what we work on. What is true for you? That hurt me back then. All right, let's work on the hurt and pain, not the memory. We're not investigating memory. Again, because in and of itself, it may not be true. When I was doing my training, we were working with somebody who stopped playing piano for 50 years. She was playing when she was 10 or something, and she was in her 60s, 70s, wanted to just learn how to do hypnotherapy and help friends and her community. And she was one of the demonstration people up at the front of class before we broke up into small groups to work on it. But she was saying how she never played piano since she was 10 years old because her piano teacher said she couldn't teach her anymore. And she could teach her older sister, but she couldn't teach her. And she took that as I'm awful and I play badly. And she just stopped playing. And then this whole piano thing fell apart. And she never played. She wanted to play for her grandchildren and things because it brought her joy, but she never played anymore. And they did the process of going specifically back to that memory. And as she opened up the memory to more of it, as she pulled in the information, again, we'll get into this in the more spiritual side of hypnotherapy, the next part, more about that information. But she opened up to that memory. She realized, oh, the teacher said I'm so good that she couldn't teach her anymore. She taught her everything she had to teach her, and she needed to work with more professional, but she only heard part of her mind only absorbed the part of, oh, I can't teach her anymore, and took that as bad and then just stopped processing the rest of it. When she opened up to it, she said, oh, I was so good. I was so much better than my older sister that the teacher had run out of things to teach me, and I needed to level up another teacher. So it was actually the exact opposite of what she had thought all those years. And it's sad because she missed out on some 50, 60 years of playing the piano. But she created healing around that by resolving an old memory that was stuck in her subconscious mind. She couldn't consciously remember the other part of that conversation the piano teacher had with her mom. But by moving into the subconscious mind, she realized the extent, and only realizing as a child, she took that first part as being an insult. And she wasn't good. And so why play if you're not good? And again, just created a block within herself until she decided to remove it because she wanted to play piano for her grandchildren. And so I don't know, that might be a long answer to a short question, but even if you don't know what the problem is, I remember that lady I told you about that pulled all that red gunk out of her head for 48 minutes. She wrote one word on her intake form, anxiety. When I asked her to clarify, she said, I've been anxious since I was 19. That's all we had to work on. That was the target. That's what we work on. She knew what the problem was. Maybe not consciously, but unconsciously, she knew what the problem was. Her unconscious gave her a symbolic and metaphoric way to create resolution and healing around it. She let go of that big, heavy weight. In that first episode, needed more clearing and letting go of a specific set of events that happened when she was 8. We did that work. And now she roams the earth as a wonderful, happy, free, light, and peaceful person. And so even if you don't know what the problem is, you know what the problem is. Even if you didn't know you had a scrape on the arm, your subconscious mind absolutely did and started creating a scab and new skin and regenerating that part. It knows which bone got knocked around while snowboarding. It not because it has a cast on it. It knows which bone is the problem and it knows what to do to fix it. You're not like, fuse the bone. Like, you don't have to meditate on it. Your body knows what to do. Your mind knows what to do. Your brain knows what to do. And it's oftentimes just giving it permission because it thinks it's by armoring you or holding on to it, it's doing you a favor. And maybe as a kid, that was the best thing you could have done, is to hold on to it and to protect you in that and keep yourself small and keep your voice small. Because maybe it was unsafe to have a loud voice at home and speak your mind. Maybe that was really unsafe. And you learned that as a child in an awful kind of ways. And yeah, you kept that with you in your 20s and 30s and 40s. And now it's just, you know what? I don't think that works for me anymore. I'm an adult. I can move with adult knowledge and wisdom and understanding of the world. You can let go of the programming that you set up as a child. You can let go of the program you set up a couple of years ago because of the events and situations, circumstances of work or family or marriage or et cetera, et cetera.
It's fascinating and so empowering. As you said before, it's so empowering. I want to ask you a little bit also before we wrap up, because we are talking about hypnotherapy in context of healing. And a lot of people, and that was myself included too in the beginning, I first started with hypnotherapy as a client a long time ago, decades ago. And one of my concerns was, well, how will this make me feel if I start opening these cans of worms that I don't know where they are in the subconscious or what's even in there? And I start opening these cans of worms. Is this really going to disrupt my day, my life? Are things going to come up that I can't handle? Do you want to share with our listeners maybe a little bit around what these sessions look like? What happens? How do you work with things that might come up in sessions that clients weren't prepared for or they weren't expecting in their healing journey? And how that comes together to actually create that healing that they've come to you for in the first place? How does that work in hypnotherapy sessions?
Yeah, it's all done in a very safe and gentle way. Don't let anybody hang. And that's why I like, especially the first session or two, to be 90 minutes, because I want to make sure there's enough time. But this is not unlike going to the gym, maybe to work, build muscle, lose fat, whatever the person wants to work on. Yeah, it's going to be a little interruption of your day. And it's not to say you're going to be sore or uncomfortable the next day, but it's going to take a little bit of your time to do a session. But when you walk out of a session with me, I'm going to make sure you're feeling good because you're going to release the hurt and the pain, and then we're going to fill you up with something else. You take something out, literally, not literally, but metaphorically, symbolically taking something out for 48 minutes. I'm just not, okay, I guess we're done. No. Why don't you close your eyes? We're going to do a part 2. And again, that's where the intake form comes in because it tells me what you want instead of the anxiety or the hurt, the pain, the fear, the anger. I want more joy. I want to feel light and free when I wake up in the morning. And this is where the suggestions are coming from, to program you for what you do want. And now I want you to imagine yourself as that person. Mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So imagine yourself as the person you want to be. Maybe a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. Imagine yourself a year from now and all this healing work. And then boosting yourself every day, maybe with the short little exercises of 5-10 minutes. maybe listening to a recording or doing some sort of somatic exercise of just hugging yourself or something, doing an exercise and imagine yourself a year from now, how amazing you're going to be, how awesome you're going to be with that joy and that happiness. So now step into that person, become that person. You're going to walk out of a session feeling 10 feet tall. And imagine practicing that every day. Okay, yeah, maybe not, you don't have 90 minutes every day, but what if you had 10 minutes and you could fill yourself up with that color? Because again, that's what's extraordinary about the symbolic and metaphoric healing state of this. If you can picture joy and happiness as a color, what color is it? Different colors for different people. Is it a feeling state? Is it warm? Is it friendly? What does a vibrational essence feel like? Is it silky? Is it smooth? Is it warm? Is it something? Now bring that in to your heart and expand it outward so it fills in all the empty space. In fact, as if there's any negativity left over, it pushes it out, or droplets of water on a hot skillet, just all the negativity that was left over, all the rest, it pushes it out. And now you're forming this big field of beautiful, colorful joy and happiness within your entire body, every cell of your body, and it forms this strong, powerful energy field around you because it just expands outwards. A strong, thick, powerful energy field blocking you from all outside negative influences. You're walking out or ending the Zoom call, feeling amazing. So now, every day for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, fill yourself up with that light, that energy, that color, because that color represents joy, happiness. And if somebody says blue or green or yellow or orange or whatever the color is, there's a certain orange, there's a certain red, there's a certain yellow, there's a certain green, a certain blue. If you go to the paint store, there's 57 shades of blue. So which blue was it that you saw? Fill yourself up with that blue because that represents everything you want in life. Your subconscious mind knows what that blue means. So fill yourself up with that symbolic representation of the joy, happiness, freedom, and love you want in life, or whatever the thing is that you're looking for, the confidence, the strength, the power, the courage. Fill yourself up with that every day. Mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. I can't remember if we talked about the first time, but there's the study with the piano players. And do we not talk about piano players? Okay, really quickly.
I don't think
I'll do this
we
really quick because I know we're up against time. But really, if I did, I'll just repeat it. A study done back in the 1990s. If any Joe Dispenza fans are out there, he talks about this in Supernatural, Becoming Supernatural, his book. It's the research study from the 1990s, and this is when MRIs and SPECT scans, researchers could watch the brain in real time. That was new. Before, all they had was sociological research and autopsies. Now they can watch the brain do stuff in real time. One group of researchers wanted to watch the brain learn something new. And so they brought in people to learn piano, and they showed them simple scales and exercises, little songs you learn as a beginner. And they practiced 2 hours a day for 7 days. That's the length of the research. They had the control group. They didn't do anything. They didn't learn anything new. They didn't do anything different because in this kind of research, you want to compare and contrast. Here's a brain that doesn't do anything, doesn't learn anything. Here's a brain that's learning piano. At the end of the week, what are the differences in the brains? Compare and contrast. But they also had a third group, and this is where it gets fascinating. The third group only pretended to play the piano. So they brought them in, they showed them the simple little scales, the exercise, little songs you learn as a beginner, but instead of sitting at the piano and practicing, they sat in a recliner or on the couch, closed their eyes, and pretended to play the piano, only with their imagination, never touched the piano. So at the end of the week, you look at everybody's brain. The control group, nothing changed. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything new. Of course, nothing changed their brain. No big mystery there. That's what they figured would happen. The group who actually sat at the piano, played the piano with their hands, worked the keys with their fingers, heard the music, read the sheet music with their eyeballs. They developed a new neural network in the part of the brain for music. Of course they did, because they're learning music. So all these brain cells connecting together, with moving of the fingers and listening and hearing, all these brain cells connecting together developed a new neural network that was visible within 7 days. But what's extraordinary is the group only pretended to play the piano, developed the same neural network in the same part of the brain. You know, they never touched the piano, never heard any music, never read any sheet music. They only pretended, using their imagination, and literally rewired their brain. So if you pretended that you were filled with love and joy and happiness, if you don't know what love and joy and happiness is because you grew up in an unsafe home, could you pretend? If you never felt safety, and what about pretending you're at a Buddhist monastery up in the Himalayas? What if you pretended you're living in a castle on the moon? I know you don't have a castle on the moon. I know it's difficult to get to the Himalayas and stay at a Buddhist monastery for a month, but you could pretend. And the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So fill yourself up with the color of joy and happiness and love. Fill every cell of your body. And the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Literally change your physiology, literally rewire your brain. And now I guarantee you, every single professional athlete, Olympic athlete, is using some sort of mental rehearsal, is what they call it. Because you don't want to call it hypnotherapy, but they call it mental rehearsal because they know that, like a basketball player, as they're falling asleep, shooting free throws and sinking them, being successful, the gymnast, doing gymnastics, the twists, the turns, the tumbles, they're doing it perfectly. The dismount off the uneven bar, doing it perfectly, to twists and turns and landing perfectly. Even though they're just imagining, not actually on the parallel bars or the rings or the mats or on the basketball court, they're pretending, imagining, and literally wiring their brain. And this becomes a little bit concerning, because what if you're imagining not being successful, of being hurt, of being in pain, of being angry, of being resentful? And that's where personal responsibility comes in big time here. It's like, you got to realize what you're thinking, what you're putting in your mind, what you're feeling. You have the ability to change it. And it may be pretending that you're pulling in the healing color so there's no more room for that hurt and pain. And imagine yourself in the future as the person you want to be, and stepping into that person like a suit of armor, like the Iron Man suit from the Iron Man movies, the Avenger movies. Iron Man suit forms around you, or this your future self forming around you. Again, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So as you become the future you, the person you want to be, is that not literally rewiring your brain like those piano players? And so you leave a session as the person you want to be. Now there's practice. What you practice, you get better at. So that's where homework comes in. But you just have 5-10 minutes. Use the symbolic restructuring of your body, mind, and brain with filling yourself up with that color or the feeling or the whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, this is really fascinating, I think, for listeners, because what are we spending most of our day with? Are we actually saying to ourselves throughout the day, wow, you did really good in this, or I really love you, that's great, I love myself, and you did wonderful? Or are we saying, oh, wow, why did you do that? Oh, that was really stupid. Why would you say that? Where do we actually spend our days? On which side? Because
yeah. And where did you learn how to do that?
That
too?
Personal responsibility, right? How are we thinking and talking to ourselves? What are we practicing in the background every day?
It may just be the people you're hanging around too. Isn't it something like, what they say, that you're a mix of the 5 people you spend the most time with, whether that's family or friends or something? Now it's social media. What are you watching on social media? Yeah, it could be music or sports or something fun, personal development, personal growth, spirituality stuff. But if you're getting hit, and I'm sure you are because of the way the algorithm goes and who owns the social media sites, you're getting hit with a lot of political stuff, at least here in America, as dumpster fire that's going on here. So you're probably getting hit with a lot of that stuff. And it's like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
And is that feeling reprogramming your brain to get into defensive mode, an angry mode, a resentful mode, a fear mode? What's going to happen with the elections coming up at the end of the year or something? Are you then not practicing that? Are you then not wiring your nervous system and your mind for that fear or that resentment or that frustration? And it's okay, then what's the answer? Is it to inundate yourself with more of it, or is it to find, and it's, yeah, I understand you need to be, especially nowadays, need to be understanding what's happening within the world and be watchful and understanding of things going on. But I don't know that you have to inundate yourself 4 or 5 hours a day, 3-minute little angry videos. So
Creating some space to make some new neural networks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fascinating. Thank you for sharing
I'm not saying
that.
it's easy with the world the way it is. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's just, you gotta be careful, gotta be watchful.
Yeah, or you can do hypnotherapy with Craig.
Or you do.
Put the link in the show notes for that as well. So that might be a good plug right there. So, if you're inundated with all those things, make sure you book a consultation with Craig. And we'll take it from there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And Craig, thank you again for coming on today and sharing all this wisdom and your stories and your experience with us. I feel this is just such fantastic insight into hypnotherapy and all the things that kind of come with it and the sessions and that. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, if you haven't listened to the first part of the Hypnotica series yet, pop back to the podcast and check out part 1. And we'll be back with part 3 next time. And as Craig was alluding to, we're going to dive a little bit more into the spiritual side of hypnotherapy. I feel this is going to be a fascinating show.
Part 1 and part 2. Part 3 is going to be pretty cool.
Absolutely. So tune back in when we come back with our next part of the Hypnotica series. And thanks everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Craig, for being here, and take care, everyone, and be well. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.